Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anne-Sophie and this is episode 3 of the Candid Knitting Podcast. Usually I start off my podcast by talking about what I'm wearing today. Now I just came back from a little Easter get-together with my dear family. So I put on this little blouse with trumpet sleeves because I thought it was very Eastery, and I didn't feel like getting changed just for the purposes of filming a podcast because that just feels weird to me, so I'm not wearing it today. So I guess we'll just get into what I've been knitting over the course of the past month. So I have a bit of a wrist injury, and I have not been able to knit a lot, but I changed up the needle size that I was working with because I got the wrist injury by working on a textured knit on 4mm needles for my cousin, who is a man and about 2 meters tall, or like just under 2 meters tall. But so I was working on this knit nonstop without switching to other whips or other sized needles, which hurt my wrists a lot. So I put that to the side for a while and I started knitting on something else, on something that calls for 6mm needles, but I knitted up with 5.5mm needles because I hit gauge with that needle size. And for some reason, I don't know how, but I managed to finish it. So my first object to share with you today is in fact my finished sweater number 14 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. The only thing that I still have to do is block it. So I finished it last night and there wasn't enough time for me to block it. So I thought might as well show it to you unblocked, and then you'll see it on my Instagram or in my next video when it's blocked. But this is it. This is my stunning sweater number 14 V-neck. I love her. She's gorgeous. I don't know how I finished this so quickly. I just became entirely obsessed with it and it didn't hurt my wrists, so I just kept on going. You know when you can get like really obsessed with a knit and just knit on it nonstop? Well, I mean, that's what happened. So this sweater is a pattern by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It's a drop shoulder V-neck pattern with 2x2 ribbing. The V-neck is just stunning, I feel, with a little detail here in the front where you decrease and then increase again as you fold over the collar. It has really long really long ribbings on the sleeves. I think this is about 14 centimeters and the sleeves are knitted quite long. I think it's stunning. She doesn't necessarily advise you to bind it off in a Italian or tubular method. So usually with the 2x2 ribbing knits that I've made, they advise you to switch it up to a 1x1 rib and then do either tubular or Italian cast off. But with this one, she just advises you to bind it off with knits and purls. So just bind off regularly with a basic bind off in pattern. And I think it's actually like more than stretchy enough just because there's no decreases in the sleeves. So this drop shoulder pattern is worked with short rows in the back, which makes for a very clean shoulder edge or shoulder seam. I love the way this looks. It's stunning. It calls for 6mm needles, but I hit gauge with 5.5mm needles, and it calls for a fingering weight or a light fingering weight held with 2 lace weight mohair strands. I think the sample she has, or the suggested yarn, is Knitting for Olive Merino, held with 2 strands of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. What I did is I had 200 grams of hand-dyed yarn, which I'll try to insert a picture of the hand-dyed yarn somewhere around here so you know what it looked like when it was in like the form of a hank. But it was some form of white with black speckles by Wool met Verve by Sylvia. And I think it knit up just stunningly. I mean, if you look at this, I adore it so much. I couldn't be happier with how this knit up. And at first, I wanted to hold it with 1 strand of mohair instead of 2, so I ended up buying 4 balls of filcolana tilia mohair. And I wanted to knit like an April cardigan or something with it, which calls for around that much of a merino held with a mohair. But I changed my mind because I don't know, I've seen a lot of people knit with this speckled type of hand-dyed yarn. It's been very trendy. And also my friend Yasmin, who I went to the Fiber Arts Fair with, where I bought this yarn, bought the same colorway from the same hand dyer but in a different quality. And she knit it up in the form of Petite Knit's Eros sweater held with 1 mohair. And I found that for me, it looked a bit too speckly and a bit too contrasty. So I started looking into other options, maybe to hold it with a suri or something and have it be, I don't know, a little bit more low contrast. Like I wanted the final fabric to be a little bit more low contrast. And so I ordered 4 more balls of filcolana tilia so that I could make the sweater number 14 v-neck. Now I miscalculated a tiny bit because it calls for 200 grams of Knitting for Olive Merino, and I had 200 grams, so 2 hanks of my hand-dyed yarn, but the Knitting for Olive Merino is much more of a light fingering weight than the hand-dyed yarn that I had. So I think I had 840 meters for 200 grams, and the Knitting for Olive yarn is 250 meters per 50 grams. So I was about like 160 grams short. I thought it would be fine because the sweater number 14 is quite long in how it's designed, and I wanted it to be a bit cropped anyway because I have a very short torso and I'm short anyway. So generally I knit my sweaters a bit shorter than any pattern calls for. So I thought, you know, I want this to be cropped anyway, and I didn't want, it calls for a split hem, but I didn't want that, so I didn't do that. And I bound off with like 10 centimeters of the merino left and 1.5 ball of the tilia left over. So I had 8 balls of filcolana tilia mohair and then 200 grams of, or 2 hanks of the hand-dyed yarn. And I knit this, which I think is quite good. I'm quite shocked at how much I was able to get out of 2 skeins of a hand-dyed yarn. I love how low contrast it is. Although I was too lazy to alternate hanks or alternate skeins or cakes, whatever. So I wound up the first one and then I just started knitting. And then when I finished the first one, that's when I wound up the second. And I do sort of regret that because I don't know, I find that you're quite, I don't know, I see it, but I don't know if you guys are gonna, and I really hope you don't, but you probably will. So at the top you see how there's not really a lot of speckles, and then at the bottom of the body I feel like there's way more speckles and it's a bit more stripy. I think you might be able to see it a lot more at the back of the sweater, how there's like at the top hardly any speckles and at the bottom quite a lot of it. But where you're most able to see it is where I joined the second ball of yarn, which is halfway through the first sleeve. So like up to here, you have like just the slightest amount of speckling. It's gorgeous. And then you get these stripes. Yeah, I don't like that. I really don't like it too much. You really see where you joined or where I joined the yarn. But I don't hate it enough to redo it. Because I'd have to redo the entire sweater and alternate skeins. On the second sleeve, I feel like it's less noticeable because there's not this difference between the two hanks. Yeah, it's still a bit more stripy than the first sleeve. But yeah, I don't know. That was annoying. I'm never doing that again. I think I'm gonna alternate skeins every time I use a hand-dyed yarn from now on, because I think it's not too noticeable, you know? I don't think you see it that well. I'll try to block it and then show you later, or insert a photo where I'm wearing it unblocked, either way. I hope you won't be able to see it that much. I'm a bit, yeah, I really don't want to frog this. It took me like a while to, I don't know, I knitted up in like a week or so, where I was knitting on this almost monogamously, because was the only thing that wasn't hurting my wrists. Um, yeah, yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. I don't want to talk about it too much, because I don't want to make it too big in my own head when it's actually not that noticeable. But I do think I'm gonna be alternating skeins from now on. Another thing that went wrong is I lost yarn chicken. So as you may see from the ribbing here at the bottom, it's quite short. I think I knit it to 9 centimeters and then I ran out of yarn. And the pattern calls for 14 rather centimeters of 2x2 rib on the sleeves, and then a split hem with 12 centimeters of ribbing at the front and 13 at the back. So I was planning on doing about like 12 or 13 centimeters around the entire sweater without having a split hem. But I ended up having only 9. And I don't know how I feel about it. This is part of the reason why I haven't blocked this yet, because I feel like I might want to frog it like up to around here, and then, well, wait, frog it up to like here, and then reknit this entire part in 2x2 rib to make it look a bit more like it should. On the other hand, I do think it does look quite pretty like this. I don't know, both my partner and my friend who also knits, who has used the same yarn for her arrow sweaters, say that I should just leave it like it is and that it's pretty as is, but I'm a perfectionist at heart, so please tell me this looks pretty, and that I should just block it and wear it like this. And if it doesn't, please also tell me so that I can frog it. Either way, I think this is gorgeous. This sweater is beautiful. I love the drape. I loved knitting it up. It was one of the it was one of those knits where you don't have to think about what you're doing too much, which was very welcome at this point in time for me. I love how quickly it knit up because of the gauge. I just love the look of it, and I think I might be knitting more of these in the future, because I've seen a lot of people who don't knit it with 2 strands of mohair, so like it can be gorgeous without, and I think I'm going to knit up another one with like maybe a heavier merino and a mohair, or just, yeah, maybe like a heavier one. Oh, maybe like knitting for olive, heavy merino, and mohair and fennel seed. That would be stunning, like a crop version. But I really wanted one that was like this. Anywho, that's all I have to say about this sweater. Because of the cost of the mohair, I am considering like frogging it though, just because it was so expensive and fancy. But when I'm looking at it like this, I think it's actually fine. I saw a few versions on Instagram. Hi. I saw a few versions on Instagram that had a bit shorter ribbing, like mine does, and I thought those were pretty and really cool. So I think I'll just keep it like this and block it and wear it all the time. Now, things that I've been working on, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or the whip that made my wrists hurt like crazy. This guy. It's huge. I'm not even sure if I can get it on the screen entirely. This is the storm sweater by Petite Knit that I'm knitting for my cousin. My cousin is like 1.90 meters tall. So he has long arms, he has a long torso. I needed about 18 balls of this yarn to make this sweater. And I'm still not there. So I think I have to knit about like this much of the body still, to get it to a length that doesn't look crazy on him. He's fitted it by now and it fits. The sleeves are perfect, so I think if I block this, it's gonna be completely fine, and I think it's beautiful, but you know, it's just so much of the same thing, and it's so many knits and pearls that my wrists went crazy. But I love it. I think it's been entirely worth it. I think he's going to love the sweater so much and be able to wear it for the rest of his life, which is an exciting thought for me, I think. I think it's going to be a beautiful gift. This is the Storm Sweater Man by Petite Knit. It's an all over textured knit, and a drop shoulder. So I think you knit these with short rows along the side, and then you pick up stitches for the shoulders over here, and you make the little detail on the sleeve by knitting garter stitch for a little bit, which I think looks just perfect and beautiful. To stay within budget, because a lot of yarn is very expensive, I used Drops Lima for this sweater. It's actually his Christmas gift, so he got like a little swatch under the Christmas tree this year, and he'll be getting this very soon. But yeah, that's it. It's the color moss green or khaki. It's different on every website that I've checked. I'll add the number of the colorway here. It's beautiful. This textured knit is knit up entirely out of knits and pearls, which is awesome. I think if you're looking to do your first textured knit, I recommend this sweater. I mean, look at it. Look at it. It's so gorgeous. It's stunning. It looks so impressive. Like, technically, it looks very advanced, while it's actually just all knits and pearls. And if you want to learn how to read a chart and everything, just having knits, pearls, and sometimes an increase is perfect. So, do recommend strongly. I can't wait to finish this. I hope my wrists will stop hurting soon, and that I think I just have at least, I'm gonna have to finish this section, and then maybe knit another one, so another one of these, and then maybe some ribbing, or I'll get into ribbing after this. I'll have to see. But yeah, that's my Storm Sweater Man. That's how far I've got. I feel like I did make a lot of progress, and I worked on it very quickly, and that's what was bad for my wrists, but just the way I feel excited about this sweater is insane, so I have no regrets. Well, the only regret I have is not stretching enough in between, or not buying like ergonomic gloves sooner. I love it though. So the Drops Lima that I'm knitting this in, it's an alpaca wool mix, and the alpaca really makes it so drapey and so soft, and I think it's a perfect yarn for someone who's not used to wearing hand knits. It's not, because the yarn Petite Knit uses, that the pattern calls for, is Pirgint, which is a rustic, untreated, I think, Norwegian wool. And I couldn't see my cousin wearing that like necessarily all the time, so I think this is a more like non-knitter friendly yarn, or like gift knitting friendly yarn. And it's very soft, it's non-irritating, I feel, unless you're bad with alpaca, you know. The stitches are beautifully defined. So if you're knitting on a budget, drops Lima instead of Pirgint is chef's kiss. Perfect yarn substitution, I think. What else have I been knitting? I've been working on my Berlin scarf by pendlerstrik. As you may be able to see, I'm basically there. Ta-da! It's gonna stretch a lot with blocking. This is essentially a tube in stockinette stitch. You start by working a provisional cast on, then you knit just the longest tube ever, just stockinette the whole way, and then you start a fringe on the first side. So as you'll be able to see, I have gathered all my stitches on one needle, and then you work 6 stitches at once into a double knitted little tassel situation. This is a very tedious thing to be doing. I have not been counting my rows, which makes for, I don't know, these tassels seem a bit uneven. I'm not sure whether they're uneven. I have been weaving in my ends while I've been going at it, because you have to add a new yarn every time you start a new tassel and then cut it at the top of the tassel. So I was thinking, if I don't weave in these ends immediately, I'm gonna have to weave in all of these tassel ends and then all of these at the end, which is going to just, I don't know, I think that would cause me to have this lying around forever and never finish the swip. And it's been really hard for me to finish this anyway, because we're spring by now, and I started this back in December, I think, or no, beginning of January. I started this beginning of January. So it's a very quick knit, but I had to wait for more yarn while I was working on this. I'm knitting this with Katia Komorebi, which is a mixed yarn with several compounds. I'll put it somewhere up here because I don't remember it by heart. It's very fluffy, very squishy, very soft, almost like boucle, something in between like a boucle and a brushed alpaca. The pattern calls for a sunless garn brushed alpaca, I think 600 grams, or no, 300 grams, so 6 skeins. And I had 4 skeins of the komorebi, which I got from a friend who had them left over and who was so kind to give them to me. And that was clearly not enough, so I bought 1 or 2 extra. That was also not enough. And so I think I knit to like 5 centimeters less than I needed the length to be before I started the tassels. And I ran out of yarn. And then I ordered the yarn for my Eras Tour outfit, so the BIRKIN polo that I've been modding. And I had to wait for that for a really long time because that was a pre-order. But along with that, I'd ordered another ball of this komorebi to finish these tassels, you know, in the last 5 centimeters of the stockinette portion. And it just didn't arrive until like 5 or 6 weeks later. And by the time the gepard cotton wool for my polo arrived, they for some reason didn't have the komorebi anymore, so there was like 1 ball left. So they refunded me, and I didn't have anything to finish the scarf. So I had to order some more somewhere else. So I ordered 2 more balls, and then I finally had them. But I mean, this one took like, I think this was lying around or hibernating for around like, I don't know, at least 8 weeks. And I just started finishing up these fringes, but I don't feel too motivated to finish them, if I'm honest, because 1, it's very tedious, and 2, it's getting sunny and warm outside. I'm not gonna be wanting to knit this 7mm gauge, basically double knitted scarf. So you knit this on 7 millimeters, and then you knit this on this fringe on 6 millimeters, double knitted. Yeah, so I think this one might end up hibernating until next fall because I don't feel very motivated to finish it. And I think if I pick this up first thing next fall, I'll finish it rather quickly because I'll be so motivated to have like a huge finished object. Yeah, so I think this is just gonna go into hibernation for now. But at least I have the yarn. It wasn't looking too good for a while, so I'm happy about that. I also picked up one of my languishing whips again. I made quite some progress on it. This is the Sporty Knit Skort by Handmade by Florence here on YouTube. It's a little skirt that's meant to have like a built-in pair of shorts on the inside. It's like a loungewear item. She has you knit stockinette for a bit, then do a little purl row, and then knit more stockinette, and then knit it together with an elastic in the middle. I started this like a little under a year ago, and I stopped working on it. I don't know why. It just became a languishing whip randomly. But it's pretty cool because what she makes you do is she has you increase every so many rounds and just add a little purl round in between the ribbing. So you just continue with having 3 knit stitches and then purl stitches in between them, which creates this pleated skirt look because the gap between the 3 knit stitches just grows. I have about 4 centimeters more to go on the skirt body. So I have 1 centimeter left until the last increase. So when I'll have 3 knit stitches and 5 purl stitches, I currently have 3 knit stitches and 4 purl stitches. And you start with 3 knit stitches and 1 purl stitch. It's been tedious, but I've just been forcing myself to work on this while I've been watching like a series or a movie, which made it go past a lot more quickly. I'm knitting it up with Drops Soft Tweed, the same yarn and colorway in which Florence knit up her second sample. It's the peppercorn or peppercorn colorway of the Drop Soft Tweed. It's it's a very tweedy, which the name implies. It has like white and brownish speckles in there. I'll move so maybe it'll focus like this if this is the only thing you see. We'll see if that worked when I'm editing. I know I'm excited to wear this. It's an alpaca wool mix, this yarn, so I don't know how it's going to be on my skin or how warm it is going to be. I was intending to actually finish this last fall and wear it as a fall skirt, which I won't be able to. I'm hoping to finish the skirt this spring though, because I just don't want, I don't know, I just want to get through my many whips as quickly as I can, you know? Although I'm not sure whether I want to knit the shorts inside of it. Maybe let me know in the comments down below whether you would knit the shorts or not. Because I think, I don't think I'll wear this dark of a skirt just like that with bare legs during spring because it's a wool skirt. I'm assuming, just like Florence, because she didn't knit a pair of shorts in this sample either, like her darker sample. She just wears this one with tights in autumn and winter. I think that's what she communicated up to now, or how she's been styling it. And I think I might just do the same. But then so I bought 6 balls of this Drop Soft Tweed, because this is knit up with 3.5mm needles. I'm using my little Licke interchangeable ones. That's why it's going so slowly, by the way. Like, you have just a ton of stitches because it keeps growing and growing and growing, and it's on 3.5mm needles. This is the worst thing I've ever had to knit, but I think it's going to be one of my favorite knits ever once I finished it. So it will for sure be worth it, I think. The fun thing about this construction though is that she has you do short rows. I'm trying to show it though. Wait, can you see the little indent of like the first increase? So here, there's a little line right here. You see it's shorter here, the part before the first increase, than here. So she has you do short rows to make the back longer than the front, which is quite nice for a skirt. Yeah, and that's it. I just think if I don't knit the inset shorts, I'll knit like a little top to go with it maybe, which will look pretty cute. Maybe like a cropped version of a home camisole by, is it Kadri who made that? Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do. So I cast on my Eras Tour. Wait. So I cast on for my Eras Tour outfit. This is my modified version of pendlerstrik's BIRKIN polo. I'm knitting instead of a 2x2 knit polo. I'm trying to emulate Taylor Swift's polo that she wore for the Midnight's photo shoot, to wear this to the Eras Tour in July. And I'm knitting, instead of 2x2 rib, one slip stitch with 3 garter stitches, and it's looking like this. It's looking pretty on 3mm needles. So she has you start on the back panel. It's a drop shoulder, so you do increases, and she has you do in the pattern increases along 3 knit stitches. So what I'm doing is I had 3 stitches, which is 2 garter stitches and 1 slip stitch, and then I started doing the 3 garter stitches and 1 slip stitch, which left me with this beautiful slip stitch detail along this side, which I'm very happy about. I think it's looking stunning. Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy I had that thought. I'm glad it's working out very nicely and well. I think it's gonna look stunning on the finished item, but we'll have to wait for quite a while before I get to see that, because this is how far I've come so far. I'm glad I started now and that I still have until July to finish this. But it's knit with gepard cotton wool, which is 50% wool and 50% cotton, which I think will be perfect for a summer polo. I'm knitting a medium. I'll see what that gives me, because I am a bit off gauge, but I'm not far enough really into the little experiment that I'm doing over here to be able to tell you a lot more. I'm knitting just straight down for the back portion under the shoulder, like the sleeve portion right now. It's a pretty color. I'll put the number on somewhere here. I don't know what the color is exactly. It's the suggested yarn for the BIRKIN polo. It's yarn barfing like really badly. But that's because I took it with me on the train and I didn't fix the yarn barf. Yeah, I'm a bit stressed though, I'm not gonna lie. I'm hoping this is gonna look good, but that's something we'll only know if I continue knitting on this. So we'll see later. I am filming a little vlog about this guy. You'll see more about my thought process and how it's going there, I suppose, I mean, I might only finish that in July, because I think I want to include footage of me at the Eras Tour with my friend wearing my little outfit. So, preview for now. That's it for this podcast. Oh no, wait, I have an acquisition. I didn't buy any yarn, because I've got a lot of, well, knitting to do for my spring plans, and I have yarn for all of my spring plans, so I just put myself on a brief little ban. But what I did buy is wrist protector thingies. So these are quite cool. I got them at my local pharmacy. They're like against carpal tunnel, or all these other things. Wait, I'll take off my watch for a second. So yeah, you wear them like this, and they're just, you know, like elastic stuff. They're not too, I mean, they're stretchy and they're not too tight at the same time. Blah, there's more in my mouth, just a second. Blah, blah, blah. So they're stretchy and tight at the same time, but they really do keep like my wrist in place and in a comfortable position while I'm knitting. So it's not like I'm wearing like a strong typical brace thing which has like these metal pieces keeping your wrist in place. It's just naturally keeping my wrist in place. I don't know how it works or why it works, I just know it does, which has been wonderful for my wrists, and I really do recommend it. The brand I got is this one, Epitact Premium Comfort Design Quality. They call it Carp Active. So it's protecting against carpal tunnel syndrome, and there's several sizes. But yeah, I do recommend these. I've seen other ones like carpal tunnel gloves that are way cheaper, because these were like 20 euros each. So it was quite the investment. But I saw great reviews about them, and I would give them a great review myself. Like, I just put them on and my wrists already feel relieved, so I think that says a lot. Yeah, my wrist thingies. Oh wait, I completely forgot about something. Just a second! So another acquisition was this new little project bag. My knitting friends made like a collective order on Petite Knit's website, so I just thought I need a lot of project bags. I have so many whips and I forget about them because if you've seen my languishing whip video, I just stuff them all into my spency pretty project bag, which is not ideal. So I've been thinking of investing in like several project bags and then limiting myself to having no more projects than I have bags. So I bought one more, and I've been holding one project in it, and it's good. It's nice. It's not as good as the one I ordered last winter. The quality of the cotton is a bit, I don't know, less great than the other one. But my needles have been poking through this one a lot less than they have been through the other one. Even though when that creates holes, the holes are just gone the next day, so I don't think that's a problem with the other one either way. But yeah, just a basic petite knit project bag. There's really not much to say about this. I think that's everything for this podcast. I think this was a lot more than I thought. I had like a lot to talk about. If you stuck around all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a nice rest of your day and happy knitting. See you next time. Bye.